On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, it was 10 months in the making. We waited 10 long months. John Calipari accepted a new job at Arkansas, spurned Kentucky at a time when a lot of people felt like he might be on the hot seat after losing to Jack Golke in the NCAA tournament. It was really the Oakland team, but it is kind of funny how I just remember Jack Golke single-handedly beat John Calipari.
That's how it will be remembered.
Yeah, it's funny. I just caught myself literally every time I say it. I'm like, Jack Golke beat Kentucky.
Cal.
So Cal goes to Arkansas. We wait 10 long months. Kentucky fans are foaming at the mouth. We get him back in Rupp Arena. We're going to rip him to shreds. And what happens, Tate?
Double digit boo. Coach Cal drug his balls across Rupp Arena.
Unbelievable win for Arkansas. Obviously it's huge for Arkansas, who I still think has a ton of work to do to be taken seriously as an NCAA tournament team. But for Coach Cal personally, this had to have been massive, and I'm sure he, the second the game ends and he goes back into a private room, I'm sure he was just laughing his ass off. But Cal gets a big win in Lexington. That specific moment is worth laughing about at Kentucky fans. And, I'm very high on Mark Pope. I'm very much out on John Calipari. I got to tip my cap and say, well played, Cal. Like to take a team when Boogie Fland is now out for the season. And, things were bad for Arkansas. They seem to be getting worse. And you go into Rupp Arena in front of fans that probably don't appreciate you as much as you probably feel like you should be appreciated. Get a massive win. That seems to be the story of college basketball over the weekend, at least if you're someone who's into all the drama type bullshit. I think the conversation moving forward, though, is that we might have to talk about Kentucky. Like, we might have to have a serious talk about these Kentucky Wildcats just not having it.
They might have blew their load a little.
Yeah, never mind just that game. Like, they just have not. They just have no interest in playing defense. Get handled pretty easily against Ole Miss last night. Kentucky might be toast. Meanwhile, other big games from Saturday. We get North Carolina Duke, a rivalry that quote unquote always delivers. Could not deliver any less than it did Saturday. Like, this was. I'm not saying it's the worst North Carolina Duke game I've ever seen. It has to be the one that had the least amount of juice going in, and still was. I expected nothing. My expectations were at rock bottom, and still it was a disappointment.
It sucked, but also it was. I mean, Cooper Flagg's start to the game was the best I've seen him play. So it sucks that the game was a 20-point blowout. Cooper Flagg lived up to the hype in his one chance.
He was awesome. He was absolutely awesome. Elsewhere, Saturday, Tennessee gets back on track against Florida. They won by 20. Florida couldn't score for shit. Does this make us rethink Tennessee? I don't know. No Zakai Ziegler, no Milicic in this game. I still think I still think it might just be Tennessee's defense is fucking awesome, and that's never been my doubts with them. So I'm not sure how much I'm really rethinking Tennessee, but I will say beating Florida by 20, a team that beat you by 30. They won by 20, right?
Yeah, they won by exactly 20, and they lost by exactly 30.
Yeah.
So I would say aggregate-wise, Florida is Tennessee's 50 points better without Zakai Ziegler. 50 points better.
If you want to be
that's math.
that is just straight up math. What else we got? Kansas chokes the game against Baylor away. Blows like a 20-point lead. All this happens on Saturday. Houston, by the way, loses in overtime at home to Texas Tech. That was a great game. Texas Tech, sneaky in it in the Big 12, by the way. Sneaky. Texas Tech is a sneaky contender in the Big 12. Marquette loses to UConn, follows it up losing to St. John's last night. St. John's is suddenly they've always been in the mix and near the top of the Big East standings. They are very much in the driver's seat. They are a very heavy favorite to win at least a share of the Big East title. That happens last night to where we wake up this morning and St. John's is running the Big East almost. Indiana makes a fun game out of the Purdue game Friday night and then finds a way to trip over their dick in the end. And Braden Smith is balling out right now for Purdue. Maybe we talk about him a little bit. A lot of fun stuff to get to. There's probably some stuff I haven't mentioned. Iowa State's struggling. Michigan State struggling.
Two on the West Coast.
We're entering the part of the season where I'm not, we could bust out the fraud power rankings and really make a meal of this thing, but there are some teams that I was pretty high on that it's time to take a step back and say, how good is this team for real? We are in New Orleans here for the Super Bowl. It is going to have it's a different feel of a show. We're sitting here in the mountain. What do we call this room? The Baja Blast, Baja Beach. Baja Beach Blast
room
here at the here in New Orleans. But we're all locked in on Super Bowl stuff. We're gonna do our best to talk about college basketball coming up. All right, we should probably start with John Calipari going back to Rupp Arena, which was a very highly anticipated visit for him, obviously. But then it weirdly, like did he? I'm trying to think this through. Was this like masterful from him? Because like somehow the hype died down because Arkansas was so bad and Kentucky was. Arkansas was pretty much. They're not dreadful, but they're a lot worse than I think people expected.
For sure.
Kentucky's a lot better than people expected, and I think by the time this game came around on Saturday, the hype around it had waned certainly, and we had gotten to a point where like I wasn't really that excited for the actual game. I was more excited for how are they going to react when John Calipari comes out. What is he going to say in his post-game press conference? Right. Is Mark Pope, when Kentucky's up by 20, is he going to keep the starters in and try to run up the score? These were all the questions I had.
Right.
What never entered my mind is what if Arkansas just dominates?
Wins by 10.
What if Arkansas is just in control of this game from start to finish? And that's pretty much what happened. And like you said, John Calipari just drug his balls all over Kentucky. I don't know what Kentucky can do in terms of the John Calipari. Like I think the divorce with John Calipari, you've kind of just lost in the short term. I don't know what you can do moving forward to. You're going to play Arkansas more, obviously. You're in the same conference. You might meet them again in the conference tournament. You're going to play them next year, let's assume.
Doesn't matter.
It almost doesn't matter.
It does not.
It doesn't. He wins the first one coming back at a time where you had the better team. Yep. He had the worst team. And I think he just sort of wins for now. Like I don't know what Kentucky fans can do about this.
It was a John Calipari masterclass. First of all, like you alluded to, I'm not putting it past him to have lost 6 of 7 in a row, take all the juice out of the game. Game day won't even go to it.
Yeah.
Everyone's just not if we're going to win. How many points are we going to win by? He does all that, so then he can beat him.
Yeah.
He walked into there like he was a gladiator, like going into the Coliseum, and the fans are just screaming and chirping like kill, kill, kill. And then by the end of it, it was a masterclass of he had to be the happiest person on earth. And he just wanted to drag his nuts across, but he got to be the classy guy.
Do you think the psychology of it was like there was almost too much? Kentucky had too much to lose or had too much to play for. They were like almost too psyched up, and Arkansas had nothing to lose. And because I mean, maybe it's as simple, and we could talk about this in a second. Like Kentucky just might not be very good. Like they certainly can't guard, and that's becoming a very real issue. And I think I've made a lot of excuses for them because they've been banged up, and frankly, I've made excuses for them because they play a fun brand of basketball where even if they're not winning, like last night against Ole Miss, they scored 84 points. I think the final was 94-84. Maybe Ole Miss had more than that. I think Kentucky scored 84 points. We got another instance of Kentucky.
98-84.
98-84?
Yeah.
We had another instance of Kentucky. For a while there, we were saying if Kentucky scores 70, they're going to win the game. That's out the window at this point.
No, they're giving up 90 points the last 2 games.
But I've been willing to make excuses for them because, frankly, it's just a more – like when Tennessee is at their worst, it is dreadful basketball to watch. When Kentucky's at their worst, it's like, yeah, they lost against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss was in control this entire game. But that was kind of a fun game to watch. You know what I mean? So, like, I've been willing to make excuses for Kentucky. But maybe they're just not as good. But I don't know if it was that or if there was like some sort of psychology where like it was so hyped up, and for the entire lead up to John Calipari returning to Rupp Arena, it was just all people were talking about on campus, and like we have to beat the fuck out of it. We have to win this game so badly. And instead of going into this with a game against an SEC team who's just not that good, Arkansas is like on the lower end of SEC teams.
2-6 now.
Kentucky at this point has no serious SEC title aspirations, but there was a moment in time where like you threw them in the mix with the teams in the top. Take everything else out of the game, you would expect Kentucky to win rather easily.
Right.
But introduce everything into the game, and it was a completely different story. It was crazy. Arkansas, like I said, like it wasn't just a win. Like they looked like everything was flipped. Like if that was the first time you'd watch either one of those teams, there's no world in which you would have thought that Arkansas was supposed to be the bad team.
Now, it does need to be factored in that Arkansas, a team that we don't think shoots very well from the three, shot 52% from the three. Yeah. So like that, you've been the king of it.
Yeah, but that goes back to what's happening with Kentucky is like I think they're getting way too comfortable giving up buckets and just assuming they're going to score on the other end. And it's not that Kentucky's bad on defense. That's the problem. for me. It's that Kentucky has no interest in being better on defense. It's like there's kind of no want to get better, and I think I might have to be out on them. Tate.
Out?
I think I might have to be out. I think I'm officially out on Kentucky, which I don't know.
They've lost.
So we have our tarred and feathered list. Obviously, I kind of have my own internal like. I'm not going to get tarred and feathered for this, but this is like kind of the list of teams that I think could actually.
I think the tarred and feather list is like the analytical perspective, where it's like, hey, this team mathematically simply cannot. I am interested in hearing your like. Yeah, my brain says
this is my eye test. Yeah, my eye test says Kentucky's definitely out, which they probably should have been out for a while. But like I said, I've given them a longer leash because they're experienced and they're one of the two teams that have Kentucky and Kansas both are the two teams that have beaten Duke, who I think is it's Duke and Auburn at the top of college basketball. I think Alabama's a half step below them, and so I think Kentucky is a team that even. As they've ebbed and flowed, I've seen the bigger picture, and I'm like, when March rolls around and you have like a starting lineup that averages like 26 years old, and you can shoot and push tempo and all that, there's a lot to like about them. But boy, they are just playing dreadful defense as of late, and eventually that's going to matter, and it's been mattering recently, and I think Kentucky's toast. I think they're out. Tennessee was a team that I did say I think I was done with. They emphatically whooped Florida in Knoxville. Florida I'm in on, but Florida has not been playing particularly great as of late. They almost fucked it up against Vanderbilt last night. Needed like they just needed a good second half. I don't know. I was about to overstate it and say like they needed a miracle. They didn't. But Vanderbilt gave them a hell of a game in Gainesville. And for Tennessee to whoop up on Florida, I feel like I should be backing on Tennessee. But again, like I kind of said at the top, the problem is Tennessee, I need to see them win a game where they are just great offense. I don't know. Like that's how they win these games. I'm not worried about Tennessee holding a team to like 4 for 30 from the 3-point line, which is what I think they did to Florida. They can win games like that. I just don't trust that they can do that 6 times in a row, and I'll never probably get that out of my brain. And that's the difference. And as I hear myself say it out loud, I realize that there is some bias to the teams that can score. You're a little more forgiving with them because there is like some sort of belief that at some point, if you can score well enough, if you're a team that can go out and theoretically hit 23s in a game, something about my brain trusts that like eventually, if you just buy in, you can figure it out enough on defense. And that's your concern. Like you can almost like I feel like you can flip a switch enough defensively. Whereas the other way, if you're a team that can't shoot for shit, it's not like you're going into the tournament being like, okay, if we can just lock in, we're just going to make shots.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
You should be able to make little adjustments, coaching-wise, effort-wise, whatever, to get stops.
Right.
You can't just all of a sudden mid-February be like, hey, I know we haven't been able to shoot for shit, but we'll turn it on.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And I think that's my concern with Tennessee. It's been my concern with Michigan State, who has now lost 2 in a row on the LA trip. Mick Cronin vindicated, by the way. Remember Mick Cronin was like...
Was he pressing the right buttons?
Mick Cronin was like, hey, man, we got to go east all the time. And although he made his own schedule, like that was the weird... Like no one told him he had to play North Carolina but I guess maybe CBS did. He played North Carolina in Madison Square Garden, and then they played like Rutgers.
Yeah, that changes things
later.
When he says, I've seen the Statue of Liberty. Well,
but he was bitching. He's like, we keep having to go east, like bring these teams out west and see what happens. And then Michigan State makes their West Coast trip. They go 0-2, and Michigan State suddenly not in the driver's seat in the Big Ten anymore. The Big Ten race is wide open.
Big Ten race is wide open right now. Who are you throwing up there? Because Michigan State, they were, I thought, pretty firm in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
One West Coast trip.
Well, what I said, my concern with Michigan State is starting to rear its head. Yeah, that they can't shoot for shit. They are a team that is absolutely overachieved. I don't think there's any doubt in it. I think even the biggest, most delusional Michigan State fan on earth has to acknowledge that, like, at this point in the season, you didn't see this coming. And they an 18-2 start. I don't think there's a Michigan State fan on earth that thought we're going to start 18-2. Which isn't to say they're not a good team. It's just they're a top 10 team now, and the chatter starts like ramping up. They're like, can they get a 1 seed? Can they be a team that's like national championship good? And the concern is that they can't shoot. Like I said about Tennessee, like Michigan State's not a team that's just suddenly going to. They might have one game where they shoot the ball well. They might have 2 games where they shoot the ball well. To win a title, I don't trust that they're consistently going to be able to shoot the ball well. And also the schedule has been extremely favorable for them. So yeah, at some point you kind of expect them to fall back down to earth. But having said all that, like before the West Coast trip, I think it was fair to say Michigan State. The Big Ten was Michigan State's to lose. They're still very much in it, obviously. They've only got 2 losses. And I do think that they are one of the better teams in the conference. I don't think it's like just wait until they play the other top dogs. They're going to fall like a rock. I still think they'll be towards the top. But I think I'm back on Purdue. I think it's got to be Purdue. I think – yeah.
It's funny because it's full circle. It's the reasons you're going to say Purdue are the same reasons that you said Purdue before the season.
At the start,
and then we all jumped off. I really don't know, again, why we did, but you're going to say Braden Smith, culture, coaching, winning tradition.
I think I jumped off Purdue. I think you jumped off Purdue. I think I'm back on Purdue because you realize how bad the Big Ten actually is, which we kind of knew. I don't know, man. It's – yeah, I'm talking myself in circles with the Big Ten all season, but I really do just seem to end up right where I started over and over. I guess that's how a circle works.
That's quite literally what a circle
is.
Twice
right there. But yeah, at the start of the season, you're like, I think the Big Ten is going to be okay. There's not going to be any elite teams. And then you start playing itself out, and you're like, now hang on a second. This Michigan situation with 2 7-footers, maybe they're not consistently elite, but like, boy, when they're at their best, they're fucking terrifying. Michigan State is, maybe I don't think they have the top end talent, but there's a ton of buy-in and they're winning all their games. Like, what else do you want from Michigan State? Purdue had their moments. Certainly the Alabama game early.
And what kind of got us to jump, they lost the opener, and it was against Penn State.
They lost to Penn State. Yeah.
Oh, that's not Purdue that we thought.
Right.
Well, since then they've rattled off everything except Ohio State.
And not only did they lose to Penn State, but they lost. That's like a game that they just like wouldn't lose. They kind of got housed a little bit, and that's like a game that in the last few years you don't see Purdue lose in that manner, and you're like, oh shit, this is about to get real for them in the Big Ten in a way that it hasn't the last few years. But I think Illinois was a team I was really high on that I think I'm out on Illinois now as a
we
final.
Put boots on the ground at Illinois, didn't we?
Yeah, I went to the Ohio State Illinois game, and I take the Ohio State part out of this. We choked it away, and Illinois. This has nothing to do with me saying that like Ohio State should have won the game, or it has nothing to do with that. Like, I just watching Illinois, I was like, this team is. They're in love with shooting threes, and they can't shoot threes. They have a ton of size, but they don't really utilize it. Now they did down the stretch against Ohio. It was the basketball part of me was being driven crazy. Like the part of my brain that just wants to see like good basketball was being driven crazy by Illinois' offense. The Ohio State fan of me fucking loved it for like 30 minutes of this game, where Illinois had guys that were 3 or 4 inches taller than Ohio State at every single position, and they were just floating around shooting threes. And other than the one big guy, the Rogers, Johnson. It was Johnson. It was the Johnson kid, 21, with the fucking pigtails. He was killing us. He's a fucking monster. Other than him, like everybody else on their team was just floating around, jacking up threes, and I was like, and then you look up and Illinois is like on the season like a 30% 3-point shooting team. I didn't love that, and I don't think they're like really locked in defensively. I think they're too young, and the Illinois is a team that has potential, but I just don't think like. If this was old school college basketball, I would be very high on Illinois like 2 years from now to win the national championship. I think they might be my preseason number 1 team like 2 years from now. But that's not how it works, and they're going to lose all these guys and whatever. Yeah. But so I think that helps with the Big Ten picture for the argument for Purdue is I think like Illinois was an interesting team because I kept saying for a while that like they have the highest ceiling, and they're going to be a team that needs to be reckoned with at some point, but I still think they probably do have their highest ceiling, but like at this point, I don't think we're going to see it.
Yeah,
so who cares? What's the point of even fleshing out that hypothetical? Because I don't think you're ever going to actually see this team at full potential.
Big Ten right now, so like, what are you going to do?
But Purdue's got to be the answer too, because I mean Purdue is far from a perfect team. They are certainly not as good as they've been the last few years, but Braden Smith I think he's first team All-American. I think Braden Smith, the way he's been playing lately, he didn't have a great game against Ohio State, but he has been basically since then. He has turned it on, and I think he's a first team All-American. I think at this point, if you're doing like it is interesting. I said this on Mostly Sports not too long ago, or maybe some other show. I don't know if I even brought this point up on here. It's interesting that college basketball this year, we're at a point where they're, in my estimation, and Bama fans might push back on it, but I don't know how you can yet until we see you guys play Auburn, and you can change the narrative then. But until then, it is Auburn and Duke at the top, right? Those are the two teams. And for the first time, and I don't even know the last time, I should look this up. For the first time in a very long time, the two best players in the country are on the two best teams in the country. And there's and not only that, but it's like the two, in the same way you look at Auburn and Duke, and then it's kind of everyone else. You look at Cooper Flagg and Jani Broom, and then it's kind of everyone else.
Good.
And I think Braden Smith is now the Alabama's in a better spot. Alabama's closer to Auburn and Duke. But you know what I'm saying? But Braden Smith is now
I think next tier down.
Yeah.
Of best players in the country.
Yeah, to
most valuable
a point where
country.
I'm pretty confident in saying that he's going to be a first team All-American.
Okay.
I think he's going to be first team All-American. And you know the Cam Jones was in the mix, and he still is, and Mark Sears is in the mix, and there's a ton of other guys. Guys are in the mix. There are a ton of guys that'll eventually be in the mix, but I almost think it's those three at the top, and then we're gonna have to figure out the last two spots instead of those two and figure out the last three spots, if that makes any sense. So I think I'm high on Purdue because Braden Smith's been playing so well. Trey Kaufman, like we've been saying about Purdue all season, I don't know about their depth. I don't know about some of the lineups. At times you watch them and it feels like Matt Painter's figuring it out as he goes because he only trusts a handful of guys. I worry about how confident they are shooting threes. That's still an issue. I think I don't know. The games bleed together, but they'll still have games where they only shoot 10 threes or something. They don't seem particularly interested in shooting them. But every single time in all these Big Ten games, every time they take the floor, it does sort of feel like they might have the two best players on the floor, and Kaufman, Wren, and Braden Smith.
They might have the two best players in the conference.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Right now, what I'm saying is I think it's fair to evaluate the Big Ten. We're 12 games into conference schedule. Purdue, Michigan State, and Michigan all have 2 losses. Would you say the winner is 100% going to come from those 3?
Purdue, who else would it be? Wisconsin?
4 losses.
Maryland? Is Maryland
4
in
losses.
I like Maryland a lot.
I do like
Maryland
Big Ten
a
tournament
lot.
setting.
If you're asking me for a dark horse in the Big Ten to sort of come out of nowhere, it would probably be Maryland.
So schedule-wise down the stretch, Michigan has to play both of them. They still have 2 with Purdue, 2 with Michigan State.
Okay.
Purdue and Michigan State only play once in East Lansing, which that's going to matter. So Purdue doesn't have to make the West Coast trip. They don't have to play UCLA, USC, who Michigan State just lost to.
Oh yeah, because they did Oregon, Washington,
which is substantially easier in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It'll be interesting down the stretch.
Yeah, the Big Ten this year, by the way, I keep forgetting this until I'm watching the games, and then they do the reminder and do the standings, and then I'm like, oh fuck, that's right, and then I forget it 20 minutes later. Not everybody qualifies for the.
Do you like
tournament.
it or hate it?
I think I hate it. I think I hate it because I like the idea that every single team is technically still in it going into March. I think that makes college basketball very unique. Now, some people would argue that makes the regular season worthless and stupid. I don't know. It's because I'm a college basketball guy. It's the only reason I'm saying this. But I think the regular season matters immensely. I think that fighting. Oh, my bad, Fasoli. My bad, Fasoli. Come in. Sorry.
I left the door cracked just in case anyone else wants to make
Fasoli. All right. Nick Fasoli,
that's your favorite guy too.
He's my favorite guy. See that face he made? Oh.
Thought he saw a donut.
Coming in for some Kings.
Is he eavesdropping right now?
I think he might.
There's footsteps behind that door.
Yeah, we're at the. I guess we just broke the 4th wall, or Fasoli did. You just burst in like the Kool-Aid man.
Perfect
right there.
guy to do it.
Yeah, we're at the content house, and there are I would say 10,000 people just walking around, and there's chaos all around us. Yeah, Stephen Che's in a do-rag right there. Fasoli's.
You don't see what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, this is a road game. I feel like Michigan State on the West Coast. I'm like, God damn, dude. I'm jet lagged.
There's food right over there. Fuck.
Time zones are off, even though we got to deal with so what were we saying? I don't even remember now. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by Rhoback. It is 2025, and it is basketball season, and Rhoback is back. By now, you know how much we love Rhoback, but what we really love is all of their new releases. Rhoback recently released their new men's huddle hoodie. It's different than their Hezzy hoodie, which is awesome, by the way. We love the Hezzy hoodie, which you have all gotten to know. It is great. But the fabric of the huddle hoodie is really comfortable, cotton poly blend, so it's both warm and has a nice stretch to it. They sent a couple to me. I wear it all the time. I'm actually mad about the weather in New Orleans because I packed 2 of the hoodies from Rhoback to wear down here, and it is so hot and humid here that I can't justify wearing them. So in a weird twist of fate, I'm actually very excited to get back to Chicago, get back to the cold of Chicago so I can wear my Rhoback hoodie. Meanwhile, the Rhoback Sprint joggers are the best. They are so easy to move in. You can rock them for a quick game of pickup or while you're just hanging around. They're lightweight, have the perfect amount of stretch while keeping a soft feel. So use code Titus on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off your first purchase through the end of this week. RHOBACK.com, 20% off hoodies, joggers, and more with code Titus, Titus, Rhoback.com.
Oh, I know exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the Big Ten tournament. Not everyone makes it.
Not everyone makes it. I like the idea going in that every team has a chance, and I still think the regular season matters. I think you're fighting for seeding, and seeding matters greatly in the NCAA tournament. I think the regular season sets up the seeding for the conference tournament, which is how you punch your ticket if you're one of the teams that's not going to get an at-large. Obviously, I don't know. I don't. Again, I understand I'm saying this as a college basketball sicko, so of course I'm going to watch the regular season, but I think that like if you're someone who just cares about March Madness, there's really not like you're just always going to be someone who cares about March Madness, and it's there's no getting those people to watch the regular season. I think the regular season this year has been fucking awesome in college basketball, and I think that I don't think that like letting every team in a conference compete in the conference tournament devalues the regular season. I don't think that letting Minnesota, who's Minnesota at the bottom? They've been playing better. Yeah, Washington's at the bottom. Minnesota was playing better there for a hot second.
They'd still be out today. Right now,
I don't think letting Washington enter the Big Ten tournament devalues the regular season.
Is that the reason? Is it only it has to be?
I think it's just logistics of like there's so many teams that like we can't get all these games in.
Right.
But I think that's what makes college basketball unique and makes it awesome is when March rolls around, I like the idea. Now the Ivy League for a long time didn't play a tournament. Now they do have a tournament, but it's sort of what the Big Ten's doing where it's not every team you have to qualify. I think it's just the top 4. I think they do the top 4 in the Ivy League play in their tournament. But I love that idea that generally speaking, every single team in the country heading into March has a chance, theoretically. That's fucking awesome.
I think it's the best part of the sport.
Yeah.
Like even better than the March Madness and the opening weekend is if you have a bad season. So
Rutgers, great example. As I'm looking up and seeing TJ Hitchings. Rutgers is a great example. Very disappointing season.
Very on the bubble of making the Big Ten tournament.
But isn't Rutgers a great example of looking at and just being like, dude, how cool would it be? It's probably not going to happen, but hope is what drives the sport.
He said that the other day. He said that the one thing that he can still do is be like, hey, we have talent to maybe make a run in the Big Ten tournament because they're not going to punch a ticket unless they.
Where are they at right now? Are they?
So they right now are 4-7. 4-8 is the cutoff line.
So it's the top 15 in the conference.
Bottom 3 are out.
Bottom 3 are out.
Which right now Minnesota would be out at 4-8. Rutgers is 4-7.
That would be so embarrassing.
If you don't even make the Big Ten tournament,
so embarrassing. That would be so embarrassing.
Yeah, but how about this? By having teams not make the Big Ten tournament, if Rutgers does make it, you can say that you made the tournament.
At least we made the tournament.
Also, we made the tournament. And
if you don't make the tournament.
And just don't specify which tournament.
If you don't make the Big Ten tournament, you can always say, man, we would have won that Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. Don't let us get into the Big Ten tournament.
No one wanted to see Ace Bailey.
That'll be my narrative is don't let us make the Big Ten tournament.
Parentheses Big Ten.
Yeah. Don't let us make the tournament.
I don't know. I hate it both from a fan and a player, like being around an organization, but also being a fan. One, if my team ever didn't make the tournament, even if Ohio State stinks, you always have that hope that weekend.
Of course.
Like, last year was perfect.
Dude, last year was a great
How
example.
much fun was last year?
It's awesome.
Man,
it's
don't
what,
let us win
That's
again.
why I don't understand why. I mean, I get the logistics part of it, but like figure it out. I don't know. Like
You have
the
to
teams,
figure it out.
Like figure it the fuck out. Like get the games in, like extend it a couple days. I don't care if you do. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if you're the last team in the conference, you got to win 8 games to win the Big Ten tournament. I don't care.
Play your first one on the road.
What makes this sport awesome is the hope. It is that every team has the hope. It is the idea that like you can flush it all down. If the regular season, again, for some people, they're like, if you let everybody in, then the regular season doesn't matter, and it has to matter. I think
make it a bitch for them. Then.
That's the
make
point.
It
like make it a bitch, but like at the
chance.
same time, give them the chance. And I don't know. I keep forgetting the Big Ten's doing that. And
even if you're a player, I think the worst thing as a coach or a player is like when you have nothing to focus on to get better towards. Like if Washington loses a couple more and they're just mathematically eliminated, what is the point of Washington every day busting? They're all going to transfer. They're all going to do whatever. What's the coach doing? What's the player?
Just shut it down. Shut it down for the season.
But there was always that. Listen.
Yeah.
We still got the Big Ten tournament. And there's always that carrot at the end was always that. So that sucks.
Yeah.
So it's a 17-team bracket, and they couldn't do 20? Like, what does a 17-team bracket even look like compared to a 20? I feel like 20 is easier. It's like, what is that, one extra game? Or 2 extra games maximum?
It is.
Well, there's a... 2, 4, 4, no, yeah, there's 18 in the Big Ten.
So it's 15.
So it's 15. Yeah. No, that's what. There's 18 in the Big Ten, so there's 15 in the tournament. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I'm not sure why you can't just get in a couple more games, but
like the Sun Belt is the one that goes viral because that's the one where it's like every team has another stage to it.
I am interested though. I
have the bracket for you.
I wonder if there's some sort of scenario where the last day of play becomes interesting because teams are like Rutgers is like must win to make the Big Ten tournament. Like maybe there's some sort of like wrinkle where on the last Sunday of the season it becomes interesting, but probably not. It's probably more interesting that every team can make it. And
I'm questioning this whole. What's a 15-team bracket?
Yeah, that's not an even number.
Why not have a 16?
What does the bracket look like?
So here's what it is. So teams 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 get a bye. The classic 7-bye bracket.
The 7-bye bracket.
1, 2, 3, 4
get a double
bye.
Yeah.
So the first day, Wednesday. Also, just fucking start Tuesday.
Start on Tuesday.
Make
That's
Washington.
What I'm saying. Start on
Tuesday.
Monday if you have to. Play it Monday through like make Washington win Monday through Sunday. Just give them a chance.
So 10 through 15, right? That's 6 teams have to play on Wednesday.
Yeah.
On Peacock.
Yeah.
They will play. If they win, they move on to play 5, 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 teams move on. That is now Thursday. Then your double buys, your top 4 teams, will be playing a team that has either played 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
That is on Friday. Semis on Saturday. So the 1 seed has to win 3 games. The 13 seed has to win 5 games.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. Yeah, you see the who are the conferences? The West Coast Conference does it, I think. But then there's
where they just fuck everyone.
New one. Who is the new conference that's? I just saw the brag. We just talked about it on the Yak like last week. There, is it the Sun Belt? The Sun Belt. Look up the Sun Belt's conference tournament bracket.
They did just set some changes.
It's like the longest.
It's
bracket.
Insane, but I love it. I think
the 1 and 2 seeds will already be in the semis.
Yeah, you have to win 2 games, and then like the last place team has to win 6. I think maybe. Yeah. Maybe it's just 5.
Oh, here it is.
It's a hilarious.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's the longest bracket.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have to win 7. There's the last place teams, the last 4 teams in the league have to win 7 games.
I haven't seen this. This is so the 12 and 13, 11 through 14 have to play on the first day.
Yeah.
Winners move on to play the 9 and 10 seed who had buys.
Yep.
Who will then move on to play the 8 and 7 seeds who had double buys. Who will then move on to play the 5 and 6 seeds who had triple buys. Who will then move on to play the 3 and 4 seeds who had quadruple buys. I'm gonna need help on this next one.
I mean, this has been a topic on the show before. Quintuple.
What buy do the 1 and 2 seeds
Quintuple?
Are they playing double headers?
Dude, that looks like that's like the is that how Street Fighter used to work? Where you're like, what's the idea where you climb the ladder and you got to fight the top guy last? I guess Mike Tyson Punch Out was that way too, right? Like it feels like an old school video game where the number one seed is just waiting there at the end.
Yeah.
And if you're the worst team, it gets increasingly
it
difficult.
Goes Tuesday till the following Monday.
I unironically love it. I genuinely think that every small conference should do that because the reason they do it is like the teams that are dominating the regular season, they have one bad game or maybe it's not even a bad game. It's just like the other team hits a bunch of threes and then suddenly like you're fucking yourself with your representative going to the NCAA tournament to where you don't want to necessarily, you're not rigging it for your top team, but you're just saying like, hey man, that's all things being equal, we want the best representation for our conference.
Yeah, if we're a single bid conference, we want to put our team that won the whole fucking thing all year into the big dance to represent us. We don't want Cinderella.
Or at least like give them give them a very big advantage for the conference tournament.
Well, they did.
St. John's. Can I pivot to talk about St. John's a little bit? I'm a Rick Pitino guy. I'm not shy about that.
Pat yourself on the back, dude.
He's the fucking
before
best.
The season.
I did say that they go to the Final
forget
Four.
that
I am
you
worried.
called
Like
them the
they
first
can't
day.
shoot for shit. Do you see this quote after the game?
Mm-mm.
He said he told John Fanta, but he also said it like I think in the broadcast. I don't know, was it Raftery that was interviewing him? Like on the actual broadcast.
It was Raftery.
He said it twice. He told Raftery inside or outside.
Oh, I saw that.
Outside, I'm fine. I'm doing okay. Inside, I want to kill myself. And then he said it again to John Fanta and was just laughing so hard. The Rick Pitino renaissance has been unbelievable, and it's been so good for the sport. And I say this as a guy who there's nobody who made more jokes about Rick Pitino, really ever. I've made more jokes about Rick Pitino than probably anybody about all the various scandals and his downfall at Louisville. It was objectively funny. I take none of them back. It was Rick Pitino going on a radio interview and saying Brian Bowen was the easiest recruitment of his life, and then like 3 days later, news breaks that Brian or like the FBI is busting up college basketball, and Brian Bowen was taking the bag. It's funny. It's just funny. But having said all that, like as I was pointing and laughing at his downfall, I throw my entire weight behind putting him back on the pedestal. And St. John's is a team that cannot shoot the basketball. Rick Pitino knows it, but the press is working so well. They are so fun to watch. There's like 40 minutes of hell every single night, and the Garden is rocking, and the whole scene is awesome. And I even as someone who thought St. John's could be pretty good, I had them as my Final Four pick, but it was more of like I picked, if I remember right, I picked like 3 pretty heavy favorites. It was Duke, I think Duke, Bama, and St. John's. I forget who the fourth was. Maybe Kansas.
Yeah, you had to have picked Kansas.
Yeah, like
I'll say this: if you didn't pick Kansas and did pick St. John's, we got to pull that clip because that was a pretty fucking good call.
But I didn't necessarily think St. John's would be one of the 4 best teams, but I was like, yeah, you got to throw one team in there that'll be fun, kind of out of nowhere type story. And St. John's was my pick, but I never thought they would be this good. I never thought that like I would look up in February and St. John's is I saw some algorithm said they're like an 84% chance to win a share of the Big East. Mm-hmm. I didn't think they'd be that good. I thought they'd be like top 3, like they could be the 3 seed in the Big East tournament or something.
If they beat Connecticut on the road Friday night, they are going to be 12-1 in the conference where everyone else has multiple losses, and then they'll be getting teams coming to their place. Yeah, they're in the fucking driver's seat to win the share.
They're like the reason I love Pitino so much is because I love all coaches that are that way where the culture of the program just shines through when you watch them. And you could give Rick Pitino, you could take Washington's a team we keep picking on as not being good. Rick Pitino could have taken over at Washington on January 1st, and I don't know how good they would have ended up being, but I promise you, one, they would have been better by the end of the season. By March, by the time Big Ten tournament rolled around that they didn't qualify for, they would have been better. You
don't want to see them. The Huskies.
But 2, they would have probably almost certainly looked like a Rick Pitino team, that they would have been getting after it on defense. They would have been making life a hell for opponents. It like doesn't matter the roster he has. And so when you give him a roster that is actually good and actually has athleticism, he's fucking awesome. And he's been that way his whole career. And I'm very much rooting for St. John's and the resurgence, and I think they qualify. Like you talk about, like maybe you don't, but a lot of college basketball people talk about like the programs that are when they're good, it's good for college basketball. Mm-hmm. I don't think college basketball needs St. John's to be good. I think St. John's, frankly, can win. They could go 5-30 every year, and it's not like the sport's on its deathbed.
Pretty cool when they're good.
But when they're good, it's fucking awesome.
The Garden is so
It's
cool.
awesome. It is very much a value add when St. John's is rocking. And right now, dude, they're top of the Big East.
23.
They are. What read some Big East standings for me.
Yeah, so they're 11-1. Creighton is 9-2.
Which is crazy.
Crazy because you killed them.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rightfully should have killed them?
But yeah, they're back. They're playing well.
And then everyone else is 3 losses or below. I mean, St. John's win against Marquette last night was like huge.
That was pretty huge. I think Marquette is. I think I'm off Marquette a little bit now. I think
lost 2 in a row, but it's Connecticut and St. John's.
I think the teams I'm off of right now, which is easy because they're losing, but it's also like I'm seeing. It's not just that you're losing; it's like how you're losing, and I'm seeing way too many cracks in the dam. Marquette would be one.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State's one.
Yep.
Momcilovic has been out for a while. If they get him back, maybe he's better. But Curtis Jones, who I've been glazing like fucking crazy on the show, he fell off a cliff, which is sort of to be expected. I mean, the guy was on an absolute tear, but he's not been playing well last few games. And Iowa State went from like 3rd in the country to now they've lost 3 in a row. I think they got fucking smacked by Kansas State.
Yeah, they got beat by Arizona in overtime the other night.
Basically Caleb Love shot just unraveled this entire Iowa State season. Maybe
they went from, I think correct me if I'm wrong, they were our 1 seed about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, they absolutely were.
And then the Caleb Love 3, they lose
not
in
only
overtime.
1 seed, they were. It was a Auburn, Duke, and Iowa State conversation. Was Iowa State the 3rd in that group?
They turn around this past week. Their week was lose to Arizona on the road in overtime, Kansas State by 20 at home, and then turn around on Monday and lose to Kansas by 20.
I think Iowa State needs a players-only meeting
with the coach.
With the coach.
That's what. I don't know. Ohio State keeps talking about this players-only meeting that they had with Ryan Day.
What?
The meeting,
that's not a players-only meeting.
There's a huge article today that's all over the news. It's like the one meeting that changed the world. Ohio State had a players-only meeting with Ryan Day.
I mean, I haven't really talked about the players-only meeting this season, but historically, and you can go back and check the tapes, I am the biggest believer in a players-only meeting. There's a lot of tape out there of me saying that a players-only meeting fixes everything, and but you got to use it at the right time. I think Iowa State's a good candidate for a players-only meeting.
I'm calling a timeout because I feel like I have a good read on you 99%
Go look
of
at
the time.
Go look at the
That's
tapes.
a great example.
Go find the tapes.
But sometimes you're like eyebrows get changed and you're just like, I am the number one.
I'm the number one players-only meeting. Listen, there are people that have been following me through my career.
Is he a players-only meeting guy,
TJ? There are people that are following. Check the tapes is all I'm saying.
All right.
I'm a firm believer. I'm a believer in the player. There are some things.
Okay, now can I ask you a personal question?
There's some things.
Do you really mean that? Like, are you bullshitting?
I'm someone that I find that the players only meeting has like 100% hit rate. So like I mean, we did a players only meeting one time at Ohio State.
Talk me through that.
In 2008 when we went to the NIT, and I think it ended with Jamar Butler quitting the team for 4 days. And then he came back to the team right before the game, and then we went on to miss the tournament. So I guess that players only meeting probably didn't work.
Can you tell me about the dynamic of a players only meeting? Like, who calls it first of all?
The captains. It has to be the captains. But that's a tough. You can be in a tough spot with that because sometimes
your captains are your best players and they're not your leaders.
Dude, Buckeyes might have that problem with Bruce Thornton. Bruce is not like a guy that's talking. Like, he's a quiet guy that just goes about his business, and he's not a guy that's like.
So we can't have players only.
That was driving me crazy as I was watching the Illinois game. I was like, we got no one on the team, dude. When I was at Ohio State, we had like 7 guys on the team that would motherfuck each other in the huddle, and like Mata would just sit there and let them yell at each other. And then now it's like you got 0 dudes and no one's and I'm just like I'm sitting like 3 rows behind the bench, just like like do I got to get out there?
Does it have to be me?
scream at these dudes.
You should have called
boys. They're on a 16-0 run. What the fuck? What the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are
those? We don't need to get too far.
So it takes the one guy to. Ideally, it's the captain.
So who called yours?
It might have been Jamar Butler, and then he quit.
I
think Jamar was like, yo, because we had gone to the national championship the year before. The next season wasn't. We were fine. Like I don't know, we were a bubble team pretty much all season, but we weren't. It was a huge step down from a Final Four team. And the year you remember before the national championship game team, they won the Big Ten the year before with Terrence Dials and Matt Sylvester and. J.J. Solinger.
And that's when we beat Illinois, right?
Jaquel Foster. That. No, that they won that game the year before that. But anyway, then in 06 they won the Big Ten, and then we won the Big Ten in 07. And then in 08, like we took a big step back, and I think Jamar, who was one of the captains, I think he might have called the players-only meeting, and then everyone just kind of smacked their lips at each other and yelled and said, "You're a bitch." There's a lot of "you're a bitch."
Was there any? There was there actual "you're a bitches"?
Yeah.
There was "you're a bitches."
You're being a bitch, yeah. There's a lot of
Did you drop any?
You're playing.
Did you tell anyone they were bitches?
I jumped in. No, it was a lot of we're playing soft, man. We got. You only got so much time. Here in college, you got to carve out your own legacy, and you got to fucking. You're only gonna put that jersey on so many times, and what do you want your legacy? And on and on. And I remember at the end, I think Jamar Butler was like, I think I'm done, and then he quit the team, and then he slept on it for 2 days and came back.
Not bad. That guy played in the NIT.
But if you look around the landscape of college sports, dude, the players only meeting, it hits, it works.
Okay.
And I got to be honest, we might have gone on a little bit of a tear after that players only meeting, and then in the end we just weren't talented enough. But I'm a proponent of the players only meeting, and I'm a proponent in the Duke players huddling during free throws. That's another thing that I believe in that I always look for. I need my Duke teams to
sign of
huddle
a good
free
team.
throws. Yeah. But Iowa State needs a players only meeting. Is the point. What they really need is to get they need to get baby Dirk healthy. Momcilovic. They need to get him healthy. And they need to they need to get Curtis Jones playing better again. They need to get him back to scoring fucking 27 points a game. Or
That'd be good.
Scoring. But yeah, Houston lost at home to Texas Tech. That was certainly something. And now
them in Arizona.
It's like Houston. Did Houston just undo all of they went in against Kansas in a game that Kansas obviously choked, and we spent God knows how much time talking about it on the show. But that was going into the game. Houston had no quad one wins, and that was sort of the narrative around them. And I'm someone that believes in Houston, but I also believe in the facts that are presented in front of my face. And I was like, yeah, I think the Houston team's good, but yeah, it would be nice if they do actually beat a good team. And then they beat Kansas, and I was like, oh, thank God, now we don't have to have this conversation anymore. And then they turn around and Texas Tech is a good team. Texas Tech is really fucking hot. In fact, I remember not too long ago I pointed out that these mock draft prognosticators, fucking bracketologists, had Texas Tech at a 10 seed, and Ken Palm was I think they're one of the top 10 teams in the country. Texas, I'm not stunned that Texas Tech was good, but I'm back in a situation where, Houston now play the next good team they play at home. They let it slip away down the stretch, and you're sort of if Kansas makes one free throw. Kansas makes one free throw. How would I feel about Houston? That's all of a sudden back to where I'm at, and I hate that about myself because I want to believe in Houston so much. They're such a fun team.
Who are you believing in, right? I guess this whole show, and I agree
I'm starting to feel like Brandon Walker a little bit. Where you listen to Brandon enough, you realize that he thinks every team sucks ass in college football. I don't think teams suck ass. It's just it becomes hard because the parity, what makes the sport fun for fans, makes my job very difficult as someone who's supposedly quote unquote paid to. Let's be honest, I'm paid to piss my pants on the yak and fucking attach crawfish to my nipples. You got to do that tomorrow, actually. By the way, TJ.
Oh, that was you.
But I still the part of me that loves to smell my own farts and think I'm a basketball journalist. I believe I'm paid to figure out who's what the tiers look like and who's fucking good and all that. And I do think the parity of the sport and the 3-point line is really it. There's in the last 5 years, it's gotten to a point where far too often, the team loses. I just immediately go to the box score and I'm like, what was the 3-point shooting look like?
How they shoot, and
that makes it kind of hard. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like I do feel like the era of like we have these great teams and they just the idea of like great teams just simply do not lose on the road to bad teams, or they simply do not lose at home. Like that's kind of a maxim that's existed in college basketball. It's like if you're truly a great team, you defend your home court. I don't know if that's the case anymore. What happens if a team comes in and they just can't fucking miss on a given night? So it makes it a little more challenging, but I still have like the old school way of thinking about it. You brought it up earlier when Purdue lost to Penn State. There was some small part of me, like Purdue goes on the road. Now, Purdue's done that. Purdue's like lost to Northwestern. Purdue is no stranger to losing to a lesser team, you know? Mm-hmm. But that one was different because it didn't feel like it wasn't fucking Harper hitting a half-court shot at the buzzer. It wasn't like Northwestern beats them where I remember like Northwestern beat them once, maybe twice, where they needed miracles late. Like Penn State just kind of dominated the game, probably overstating a little bit. But Penn State whoops up on Purdue, and obviously Penn State is not one of the better teams in the Big Ten. And there was a time where I would watch college basketball where I was like, that is something you can't unsee.
Yeah. That happens every week.
Tennessee losing by 30 at Florida is something you can't unsee. And like if this was 2004, I probably cross Tennessee off and say that you have no shot whatsoever of winning a national championship. I still don't think they're in that. But it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world.
2 weeks from now, you could say that you've completely changed everything.
Right.
That's where I'm.
It makes it so fun, but it does make it hard for, you know, to try to make it, like, as it turns out, a sport where the premier event is called March Madness, and and people love it because it's so chaotic and unpredictable. It is kind of hard to predict. It's hard to. Every team is good until they're not, and every team is like Arkansas is fucking dreadful, and they lose Boogie Flynn, and you're like cross them out, get them out of here, and then now all of a sudden you're like, I don't know. They went into Rupp Arena and won a game they had no business winning, we thought.
So do you like – so here's where I'm at because I'm torn this season. I love – this is as much excitement and entertainment in a regular season as I can remember in a while, but also there's officially no result that will shock me from here through the rest of the season if it wasn't for Auburn and Duke.
Here's I'll do it this way. I'll put it in this context. So maybe it's a good way to present the information. These are the teams that if Ohio State makes the tournament, we're a tournament team.
We are.
You know that we're a tournament team. When Ohio State makes the tournament, if we have to play one of these teams going into the tournament, or you know, like the draw is like we're gonna play them in the first round, the second round, whatever. Right. But it's like you have that team waiting for you.
We're done.
These are the teams that I go, oh fuck, we're done. We're just done. That's it. It's over.
I'm interested to see how long.
It's Auburn.
It is.
It's Duke.
Okay.
It's Houston. I would put Houston in that,
we don't want
mix.
That.
I would put Florida in that mix. I do think that we're fucked if we play Florida.
I agree.
I would put Alabama in that mix.
Okay.
I would probably put – if we're talking specifically of Ohio State, I would probably actually put St. John's in that mix. But
just don't talk Ohio State. Talk in general.
In general, if you're another team and you have this team waiting on you, I would say Tennessee is a team that you don't want to. I would say Tennessee.
Like, would you?
But that's
if you put Florida,
that's again what makes it so hard to talk about because like it's a different conversation between like, do you if you draw this team in the tournament, do you feel good about it, or there's that, and then there's can this team win 6 games?
Right.
So Tennessee is like one of the teams that like I want no part of Tennessee in a 1-game setting. But also, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm very nervous about the idea of us winning 6 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's so much different than it. That's what makes college basketball so much different than college football, where like Ohio State football this year, as you know, opens up the tournament. I guess we're gonna call it the playoff, the college football playoff, the whatever. They play Tennessee.
Right.
Look fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a sense for a lot of people after that game that, okay, and now we go.
Yep.
Others were like, let's see what happens against Oregon. But the second Ohio State opens the game beating the fuck out of Oregon, or up, 30-0, but maybe before even that. Like, I mean, Jeremiah Smith scores like 10 seconds into the game.
It was 14-0,
like that. As soon as that happens, the entire college football world was like, oh, Ohio State has figured it out.
Yeah, it's over.
It's over. They're just gonna coast to the basketball doesn't work that way, and the teams that have figured it out now, UConn has made it seem that way the last couple of years. UConn has dominated the tournament, but that's not how it works. Where once the teams figure it out, they're just gonna coast. You know what I mean? So that becomes that makes it difficult. Is that like I do think Tennessee. There's a world where Tennessee in the tournament, the first 2 games they play, they win by 40, and they just like it's like the teams they're playing can't even bring the ball up the floor. They can't make guard-to-guard passes. They can't get shots off. It's just fucking hell for them. And then they get to the Sweet 16 and they play a decent team and they go 1 for 28 from the 3-point line, and that's it. And then
that's the end of the run.
So
does it end with Tennessee for you there?
But anyway, Tennessee would qualify as a team that I do not want to. I would not want to play. I think that might be it. I think Texas Tech is getting interesting. JT like they play such good defense, and JT Toppin is so fucking good. And I don't know. They have shooters. They have. I love their roster. I love their coaching. There's a lot to love about Texas Tech, but I don't know if they're on that level yet. I don't know who in the Big 12 is really on that level other than Houston.
So that Kansas teams you're leaving out would be
Kansas. I would actually want to play. I think Kansas. I would love the idea of my team getting jacked up to play Kansas, and I'm kind of. I don't know. I'm trying to answer your question of like who are you high on, and I would say it's Auburn, Duke, Houston. I still believe in Florida, Tennessee, and Bama, and I still believe in that might be it. It might just be those top 6. Iowa State can win me back if they have a players only meeting. Illinois, I've lost. St. John's, I'm in on. Maryland, I'm in on.
You are in on Maryland.
I don't think Maryland's national title good, but I watch Maryland and I love. I'm having fun. I'm like I fucking love this team. Missouri sneakily, by the way.
Fuck.
Missouri sneakily is now I'm starting to change the conversation from like teams I don't want to play to like teams I enjoy watching. Missouri's one of them.
You mean Missouri, who's third by themselves in the SEC? Third by themselves in the SEC, Titus.
That's crazy. Mississippi State fell off, by the way. I'm just looking at a list of.
But okay, so here's my thing about the SEC. Would you say, are we getting duped by the fact that they all have to play each other?
What do you mean? What do you mean by duped?
Like the perfect example is Florida and Tennessee. Florida beats them by 30. Tennessee beats them by 20. But also, they're still 2 of the top 5 teams in the country.
Somebody has to win these. Like
has Mississippi State fallen off, or are they playing the SEC?
That's a good point. But then the flip side would be like, are the teams that in the SEC you always have an opportunity to quote unquote get it back. Like Tennessee, you want to give up on them, but then they beat Florida, and now you're back in on them. Like because you're always going to play good teams, so you're always like one. When you get to play top 10 teams constantly. You get to always like
you always have a chance.
You always like bounce. Always have a chance to bounce back. But yeah, I think the SEC is. I felt this way about the Big 12 for a few years, where it feels like if the season went on for 5 more months, the top 10, every top 10 team in the country might be SEC teams because they just keep beating each other and like.
And then all of a sudden they have a top 5 win, yeah.
And then you look and you're like. I mean, I thought Duke was the second best team in the country, but I got to be honest, Duke only has like 3 good wins. Meanwhile. Ole Miss has 15 good wins, So yeah, that's going to be interesting as you know the NCAA tournament rolls around. Is the SEC though is sort of fleshing out to be Auburn and Bama like we thought it might be. I'm so fired up for those games. Auburn has they got Florida this weekend. They got Florida Saturday at home, and then they got Bama next Saturday. They have a.
Can they do it, Titus?
Win the national championship?
No. Can they? So they've only lost one time.
Can they
was to
run
Duke
the table in
Cameron
in the SEC?
No, the answer is no way. But also,
they're going to be favored in every game, right? You think they'll be favored against Bama at Bama?
I don't think they'll be favored. I don't know.
Quick break to talk about our friends at DraftKings. This ain't the little itty-bitty, teeny-tiny bowl. This is Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big on You have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Titus. That's code Titus, Titus, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. I think Janai Broom, by the way, is very much back in the Player of the Year conversation, but it's going to be very hard for him to. He's going to need Cooper Flagg to fall off, or he's going to need to.
He's very much back.
He's been fucking awesome, and I do think that at some point Auburn fans are going to start a conversation where they're going to say the only reason Janai Broom isn't the favorite to win the award is because he got hurt and he was out for a little while, and I don't think that's necessarily fair because Cooper Flagg is fucking dominating, and it's not like Janai Broom wasn't playing, so we were just desperate to find somebody else to give the award to. I mean, Cooper Flagg, if you put it this way, like if you started the season and said it's Cooper Flagg's award and someone has to go take it from him, I'm not sure anything's really happened that made you. There was the Janai Broom Maui run where he kind of burst on everyone's radar, but I think Cooper Flagg has been fucking. I mean, like he was against North Carolina, like he is every single night. He does. He is. I didn't mean for this to happen on the show, but they did just play Carolina and whatever, and we haven't done any Duke Lazing, and we're about to wrap the show up anyway. He is the best freshman Duke has ever had. Wow. I believe that in this run of top,
and you're gonna say
the fucking top recruiting classes that they've had, and they've had so many 5-stars, so many McDonald's All-Americans. They've had your Kyrie, who didn't even really play for him, and your Zions.
We're sitting here in New Orleans.
Jason Tatum.
Zion City.
Yeah.
And you're going to say that today?
Cooper Flagg, I don't know if he's going to forecast to be the best NBA player. Will he be as good as Jason Tatum at the next level? Don't know. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as a freshman basketball player, Cooper Flagg is the best that I think Duke has ever had on both ends of the floor, and he does everything well. He's been fucking awesome, and I weirdly think that he's somehow been a better college basketball player than I expected him to be, but in a strange way, I also it wouldn't surprise me if NBA people have kind of cooled off on him a little bit, which doesn't make any sense, but I do think that there's this belief that maybe he's not the draft prospect. Like, he's still going to go 1. He's still obviously going to go 1. But I don't know if NBA people see him as a guy who can be the best player on a championship team anymore. Which I think was the.
So you're saying he's overperformed and now people are going to cool off on him.
He has it. So coming into this year, I expected Cooper Flagg to be very, very good, but not to be a guy on the college basketball scene that it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't win Player of the Year. If he was just pretty good, if he had a typical Duke freshman year. I mean, Duke has had so many good freshmen, as you know. Marvin Bagley was fucking awesome as a freshman at Duke. I thought he would just have a one of those type regular freshman superstar seasons at Duke. But then the real story of Cooper Flagg is once he gets to the NBA and you give him he's a very young raw prospect, he will be fucking awesome. And I actually think it might be the opposite, where he has just dominated college basketball, and he is one of the best defenders in the country. He is I don't know, I don't know who the defensive player of the year candidates are going to be. He's obviously in the mix. When he needs to be a scorer, he can be a scorer. He can set up teammates. He can rebound. He can lead the break. He can do everything there's to do. But then from the NBA. This isn't even my opinion. This is me soaking in all the NBA chatter. The NBA chatter seems to be people have cooled off on him being a generational type prospect. It feels like they've cooled off crazy. On yeah. I don't know how to say it. They've cooled out he's got the people think he can be the second best player on a championship team, or he could be the best player on a 7 seed in the playoffs or something like that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
but I don't. Yeah,
there's a lot of capture the flag going on in Chicago right now.
I'm not an NBA draft. No, he should go number 1, right. And he would be an but I think the formula will be get Cooper Flagg and then
go get
figure out a way to get a top 5 guy, right? Which I guess is just
that's a good
Mavericks.
blueprint.
Just
blueprint.
Call the Mavericks and see if they have one, and offer them
whatever.
Yeah, try to get. But no, Cooper Flagg has been. I think the reason I bring that up is because coming into the season, I told you I expected Cooper Flagg to have a Zion type year, where I thought there's a chance he could explode. I didn't necessarily expect it, but I was like, there's every ounce of hype around this guy has been outrageous. And then somewhere along the line, I don't know if it's Zion. He hasn't come close in my estimation of touching the Zion zeitgeist, of touching the Zion
aura?
Like the aura, I don't think people that don't pay attention to college basketball are really foaming at the mouth for Cooper Flagg in the way they were for Zion Williamson. But I say all that to say Cooper Flagg at this stage of his career is a better player than Zion Williamson was. I think Cooper Flagg was better than Zion, but Zion was just the dunks were fucking crazy. The highlight reel from Zion was fucking crazy, and Zion was also the best player in the country. I don't want to downplay that. Zion was fucking awesome, but I think Cooper Flagg is better than Zion.
Pulling up Zion's stats.
Cooper was
because if I'm pushing back on you, I would say Cooper Flagg has also added some crazy highlight reels.
He has, yeah.
You know what I mean? So Zion average,
but for some reason, he's not. I don't know. He's not. I don't think he's the phenomenon that Zion was.
Yeah.
I don't think people are. I think people are aware of him. I'm not saying he's like an unknown, but Zion was like appointment television for like the entire country in a way that and I don't know if it's because the ACC sucks ass or if it's just because Cooper Flagg, part of what makes Cooper Flagg interesting to people is he's a white guy from Maine.
Right.
But maybe that's working against him is how can you really believe that a white guy from Maine is as good as he is?
So
I don't know.
Zion averaged 22 and 8 and 2.
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg's averaging 20 and 8 and 4. And I would say probably playing elite defense all over the court.
Can switch 1 through 5
and his team's
anybody
either going to be the 1 seed, number 1 overall, or a 1 seed and be a favorite.
Yeah. No, I'm not that's not me saying Zion wasn't as good as I don't know. You're splitting hairs at this point, I think Cooper Flagg has been outrageous as he's been so good. But yeah, it's weird because I do see the NBA draft type people are just he's going number 1, but I don't think this is.
It's because he's white, dude.
Is it because he's white?
It's because he's white and from Maine. Yeah, TJ, you got anything on that?
Is that it?
I was trying to think it through, and I was like, that team had a lot of hype around it. The Zion team, Obama went to the UNC Duke game.
That's what I mean. There was.
I think it was a team thing, but this team is really good, so that should be. It's because he's white.
Is it just because he's white? Is it
He's also not villainous, which I think is weird, and I think I assumed he was going to be villainous. Maybe he gets in the face of a ref in the first round of the ACC tournament or something. He hasn't done anything to give people a reason not to like him. But you look at him and you're like, I hate this white guy from Duke. But there's nothing
there's nothing hateable. There isn't a ton of aura in this.
No,
I can't put my finger on why because his highlights are fucking awesome.
It's he's not. I don't know if he doesn't have a personality or what. Where he's not giving us a lot to latch on to.
Is it the smile? Give me a headshot of Zion smiling, and then give me a headshot of Cooper Flagg smiling, because that matters.
He's got no clippable, no quotable.
Yeah.
Not in either direction.
And I think also working in Zion's favor was he was shaped. He
had a smile.
Look at Zion's smile.
And then he
maybe
had
that's
a little
it.
Smirk too.
Zion's smile was yeah.
I mean,
Zion had the charisma, dude. But I think
we're all on the same.
Zion's body type also played into it. Where you're just I've never seen a human being look like this. And then he can jump as high as he can jump. His shoe burst open, which was
Cooper Flagg could use a shoe burst.
Zion,
he could use a shoe burst.
Zion felt like Paul Bunyan, where you're just this doesn't feel like a real human that I'm seeing out here.
I thought that Cooper Flagg, him being white, and we generally, and especially in the NBA now, you don't see white kids just go dominate. I thought that was going to help his cause, fan wise. Oh, dude, that's crazy. You never see that. Now I think it's hurting his cause because it's dude, no way.
There's no way.
There's no chance.
Yeah. There's no way.
But it.
So so the part.
That's fair.
The part that makes someone
his name's Cooper.
His name's Cooper. Yeah, that's true too. Cooper versus Zion. Zion's fucking Zion's a sweet
Powerful name.
Yeah, it's a powerful
Zion
name.
has to mean something powerful.
But having said all that, I think Cooper Flagg's been better than Zion was in his 1 year. Zion was the best player in the country. Cooper Flagg, I think, is also the best player in the country. But he's been so good. He's so polished, and he's going number 1 for a reason. So I don't know.
Congrats,
I don't really know what point I just made there, except I like Cooper Flagg. I don't know if I've said that on the show before.
Yeah, you made it clear.
But no, I guess the point was that I think I'm at a point where I can comfortably say Cooper Flagg is the best freshman in college basketball. Best freshman year in college basketball was Anthony Davis.
I was gonna say you're not there, are you?
Anthony Davis is the best one and done season of all time. Won everything there is to win.
Mm-hmm.
Which at this point, the Luka Doncic trade, I'm not, I'll talk about the NBA on the show every so often, and but at this point, it's been every take there is to be had about the Luka Anthony Davis trade has already been out there, and I'm adding nothing to the conversation except for maybe this. The disrespect people have for Anthony Davis is fucking crazy to me. That I understand all the context. Let me preface it by saying this: I would not have made the trade. I believe Luka Doncic is better than Anthony Davis. I realize that Luka Doncic is 6 years younger than Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things are true. I'm only speaking on the part where people go, not only did the Mavs trade Luka Doncic, which was an insane thing to do. I agree, it was an insane thing to do. But then they fall. It seems to be the consensus opinion that the Mavericks got absolutely nothing in return. And that they basically traded Luka for fucking dog shit. And I push back on that because the NBA people, if you pay too much attention to the 14-year-olds on NBA, on the internet, talking about the NBA, they will tell you that Anthony Davis doesn't have the dog in him. He's always hurt. He's day-to-day Davis or whatever, day-to Davis, which I'm not saying he's an Iron Man, but you look at how many games he played last year. He played like what 60 something games last year.
He had some rough times.
He's had some rough times, but I think it's overstated. I think the Anthony Davis slander is way overstated. He won a national championship with fucking Michael Kidd-Gilchrist as his second best player, and Marcus Teague was his point guard. And that Kentucky team dominated everybody. He averaged 5 blocks a game. I saw a graphic someone dug up the other day from when Anthony Davis was a freshman at Kentucky. He had more block shots than virtually every team in Division I that year. Than every single team. Anthony Davis alone had more block shots than every team. I don't know. He won a national championship. He won an NBA championship where he had dominant stretches on the Lakers title run. He's been the best player on the Lakers for a while, even though LeBron is the guy that gets all the accolades, and LeBron's still playing really well. Anthony Davis, I think he's the second best defender in the NBA, and again, I say all that admitting full well that the trade was stupid, but I want people to cool down the Anthony Davis.
Chill on AD. Because
he was the best. I mean, that is the one and done season, the season he had.
Mm-hmm.
He was blocking. Dude, he would stand under the basket, and then the ball would rotate, and he would jump from the paint and block a shot from a guy shooting in the corner. Shooting a corner three. He could jump from the paint and block. It was crazy. Zion did that too, by the way. I think it was at Virginia that he. If I want to find that highlight, I might just go home and watch Zion highlights. I'm gonna come in next show and just talk myself out. I'm gonna be like, never mind. Zion was way better. Zion. I think it was at Virginia. There's a dude shooting a 3 in the corner, and Zion jumped 8 feet in the air and blocked it with his armpit. But yeah, that's the only thing I'll say on the Luka trade, which was crazy. It was crazy. Most shocking.
I mean, I think they have Anthony for the rest of this year, the rest of next year, the following year after that, and then that's a player option. Charles Barkley finally put everyone in his place. I know we're coming out after Charles Barkley said it, but the Mavericks are now the better team for the next couple of years to win a championship.
I think so. Yeah.
They have the all-star guard,
yeah.
Kyrie. They have, like you just said, Anthony Davis, who is a great fucking player.
Yeah.
And then they have the ability to go bring someone else in. That's enough to win a championship. LeBron and Luka, it's like an old joke saying, but there's only one basketball. Those two aren't going to mesh well together.
I don't think
so. The Lakers just set themselves up for, hey, when LeBron retires, we still have what could be the face of the league and what could be a huge moneymaker and a jersey seller and all that. The Lakers didn't win the trade basketball-wise, in my opinion.
For the next couple of years, maybe not, yeah. But that's the thing is the Lakers' championship window is technically open now for the next decade. I think that's the reason. It was a stupid trade. I'm not arguing that And it was like an unnecessary. That was the thing. It's like it came out of nowhere. It wasn't like, this was known that Luka and the Mavericks need to move on from one another. And it just came out of nowhere for no reason.
Do you believe everything?
So the trade was dumb. I seeing the reaction to the trade where everybody's like, man, they got fucking nothing back. And I'm like, Anthony, is he not one of the 10 best players in the NBA? Am I crazy? Maybe I'm crazy. He's the second best defender, and he's averaging like 25 a game. He's averaging like 25 points a game, and he's also the lead of the lead. It's like Wembanyama and then Anthony Davis. Yeah. For me, I don't know. Gobert, a lot of people would throw in there. Not me. I'm a Rudy Gobert hater. So, yeah, anyway. I think what you're about to ask me was, do I think there's more to the story with Luka?
Well, in general, like, are you believing what you read? For example, LeBron didn't know. For example, Luka had no idea and just bought a
I do believe that.
bajillion-dollar house.
Luka didn't know. I do believe that.
There's no way LeBron didn't know.
LeBron probably knew.
But then why say you didn't know?
But because that he wants to be friends with Anthony Davis still. Because then AD would be like, yeah, like, why didn't you tell me? And they'd be like, because I didn't know. But I don't. So there's like a lot of speculation that there's more to the story, and that like maybe Luka, the Mavs are saying it's because Luka was fat and lazy, and maybe a bad locker room guy. I don't know. And then your mind runs wild, and you're like, was there an incident? Did he do something?
There was, Titus. You and I went over it on the show last year. Do you remember when Windhorse went off on him?
Or Game 3?
Yeah, because
when he fouled out with like 4 minutes
when he fouled out on two of the stupidest. That was probably the most fired up I've been. But fouled out and then slapped the floor and then basically screamed to the bench like, challenge that.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, challenge that, and it's like, bro, yeah, you just embarrassed yourself and then made your team challenge it. It looks stupid doing it, but I don't know if that makes you.
That's not enough for you. I don't know. There's not. It seems the only explanation that made sense to people is that there's something else going on. Like did he have sex with someone's wife? He shouldn't have had sex. Like what the fuck? Like where is this coming from? And I do think that there's like more to it. I think it's not just simply like. Some people were speculating about like a casino thing, which I started to read into, and then it got confusing that they want to like move the team to Vegas or something. I don't know. There's all sorts of speculation out there. I do think there's something else going on. It's not just like they woke up and were like we want to make our basketball team. We want to trade Luka Doncic, and we think trading him for Anthony Davis and one pick is going to make our team
and
that
we're not
going to
shop him.
Yeah, we're not going to really shop him.
The number one most fishy thing in the world.
So there's definitely something fishy, but unfortunately. The problem, Tate, is that we're never going to find out what it is because the NBA journalists just like we just won't find out. We just don't find this stuff out. Remember, Ime Udoka gets fired from the Celtics, and you're like, well, surely we're going to figure this story out, and then we just kind of never did. And then everyone, in fact, not only did we figure the story out, we had like 1,000 people that knew the story, and it's just like they go on air and they just be like,
wait, I forgot all about that. It's like, boys, like if you only knew what I knew right now.
Man, I'll just say this. I'll say this. I got on the phone last couple of days, and whew.
Wow.
We'll just leave it at that.
Like, when it comes out,
anything? When it comes say what happened? You're like, let me just say this. And remember, I'm saying NBA journalists are bad. NFL journalists are bad too. Remember the Chicago Bears defensive coordinator? I forget the guy's name. The defensive coordinator of the Bears gets fired, and they do a raid of Hallis Hall. That's the practice facility, and they're like fucking taking hard drives and shit, and everyone's like, what kind of heinous shit was this guy into? And what was that story? Did we ever get a follow-up of that?
Don't get me started on what we're not getting follow-ups of.
Anyway, and you wonder why I have an axe to grind with sports journalists, You wonder why, the scoops guys.
It ain't right.
I think that's your job. Go do your fucking job and figure out what the real stories are behind this shit. Instead you're just tweeting out
Can I tell you something?
That text that agents send you. What?
I had a chance to be a scoops guy. I'm regretting it hard. For the first time in my life, I got this guy DM me. And I know it's college football, but he DM'd me, and he's now 2 for 2. He said it was 2 days before Jim Knowles went to Penn State. He said Jim Knowles going to Penn State, and then he said Chip Kelly to the Raiders. And both times I'm just like.
And you sat on both of them?
Yeah. I was like, I hit him with a prove it.
No, dude.
What do you want me to say?
No, if you're going to be a grassroots scoops guy, you got to just
go with it?
You got to, yeah.
Now he's got me by the balls though, because the next thing he says, I'm running with.
Yeah.
And if he says
and now you've said it out loud, and he's gonna hear this, and he realizes he can just say whatever he wants and get you to say it. Yeah. No, it's a listen. I hate scoops guys. I'm not bashful about that, but I also I'm fair, and I say that I'm not cut out for it. I tried to dabble in it one time, and it's just not for me. It's not scoops are not for me. I'm not I can't handle, because of what you just said. You're staring at the scoop, and you're like, I don't know. At what point do you trust that this is real?
Does any part of you feel bad for Woj right now? That
the Luka.
Well, he retired before like the best scoop in the history of scoops.
Yeah.
Like Woj has had his heyday, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's never had a scoop that he then
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, of scoops.
Of scoops.
A scoops Hall of Famer.
I thought you were saying
no. But I'm saying like
Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame.
No, but
which will happen. Woj will make it into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, and I've come to grips with that fact. But go ahead.
The fact that Woj never had a scoop where then he had to double down and be like, and I promise I wasn't hacked. That was probably my favorite part of the story. Is like Shams is like,
I'll give Woj this credit. He has faded into the background more than I expected. Although I have seen like 8 different like profiles on him, about this new life of his and all that. But whatever. I thought by now he would still be popping in on Twitter and dropping some scoops here and there.
What if he would have broke this?
If I would have broke
No. If he retires from scoops and then all of a sudden in the middle of the night he outscooped Shams.
Yeah, that's what
that would have been pretty.
But that's what I expected
cool.
to happen. Is I expected Woj to step away and then he actually get more scoops because people know that he's not in the business really anymore.
So they can tell him whatever.
Like tell him whatever, and then he would get a scoop that was too good to not put out, and he would still put it out. So credit to me. I'll be the bigger man and say, good job, Woj, for sticking with St. Bonaventure. Last thing before we get out of here, let's check in on Doug Gottlieb. What's he doing? What's Doug Gottlieb? I love this segment on the show. I want to let me see if I can find Green Bay. Is that where he's coaching?
Yeah. Hey, I got it.
Doug. Bay.
Oh, he's 0-13 in the conference.
0-13.
2-22 overall.
Yeah.
They have lost 19 straight games.
No.
They've lost 19 straight.
Shit.
But I'm gonna tell you right now. Did you see what he said?
No, I didn't. This is why we do. Let's check in on Doug Gottlieb.
Choose your next words very carefully.
Yeah.
Because Doug Gottlieb just did a press conference where he said, "I know we're 2-22. I know we've lost 19 games in a row. I know we haven't won one conference game. But to all you guys shitting on me, I expect one hell of an apology when we start winning games."
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean that's fair. I you know what? I will say that if Green Bay starts winning games, I'll apologize to Doug. I will do that.
I mean, it has to be a little bit funny to you that like he gave the "you better get us now" speech.
Yeah.
After losing 19 straight.
Yeah, Luke Goody did that for Indiana after they were I forget at this point they all the Indiana rock bottoms run together, but he did like a post-game press conference where he was like, "Stay on that side, basically. Like if you're gonna jump off the ship, don't jump back on when things are rolling." And then Indiana has just continued to suck and still hasn't won in Madison, Wisconsin in like 30 years.
The direct quote from Gottlieb was, "He demands a mea culpa from every fucking one of you."
Wow.
When we start winning.
All right, no, that's fair. I mean,
and it's honestly embarrassing how little everyone knows that is chirping his team right now. That's what he said.
All right, I think that's the show. I'm back. We're back next week in the studio. Yeah. So this was a weird show. I'm just gonna be completely honest that we're traveling for the Super Bowl and priorities get out of whack and you get pulled a million different directions. So yeah, we're only doing one show this week, which I forgot to say last week. That I was really excited. We had a great weekend of college basketball, and then I woke up on Monday and realized like everybody's in New Orleans already, and I'm not getting that, and then it just becomes a whole thing. And so anyway, I for the last however long, this is I'll get to the point in a second, but for the last however long, I've been pulled in a million different directions with my responsibilities on the Yak and mostly sports, and I do love all of that. That's part of the reason I came to Barstool was to do all the extra stuff, do the case races. Do the show with TJ and Brandon and everybody else on Mostly Sports. I love all of that. When we get back to the studio on Monday, it is college basketball time, and it is time to lock the fuck in, and I am so excited for that. Watch the NFL, watch college football. The Buckeyes won the national championship. I'm not saying I'm a clueless anti-football pussy in the words of a coworker of ours, but I am at the forefront a college basketball guy, and starting on Monday, it becomes college basketball season in earnest for most of the country. And having said all that, if you're someone that's been following the show and you've been as frustrated as, frankly, I've been a little frustrated by it, but it's what I signed up for. But if you're frustrated by the sometimes the schedule gets out of whack, sometimes maybe I don't talk about the games you wanted me to talk about, I'm going to be completely honest. There's so many other responsibilities with this job that I haven't been able to dive into this in the way that I would like to. And we're doing the best we can. I think we do a fine job, to be completely honest. But starting Monday, full speed ahead.
Yeah, you said it earlier.
Full speed ahead.
Monday's going to be a good show.
Super Bowl is on Sunday, and on Monday morning, we're full speed ahead.
Like
that's that. And I appreciate everybody that if you have been watching the show throughout the season up until this point, you are, I assume, a college basketball sicko, and you love the sport as much as I do, so I do appreciate that. And, I'm excited for no more football, not because I don't like football, but because I like spending every free second I have watching college basketball, and I haven't been able to do that. And starting basically after the Super Bowl, I'll be able to do
schedule
that.
opens up.
So we'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care, everybody.